introduced, and if any of the stuffed animals would like to be introduced very briefly, that's okay too.
Well, this is Buttons, and we've never gone out to get an animal. They always come to us somehow. So he was taken in just to watch for a couple, 3 days while we looked for the owner, and of course no one was looking for him. So he ended up moving in about a little over a year ago, and he almost doesn't need introductions. He'll go around introducing himself pretty well. He loves attention, loves petting, loves kids, is a real snuggle bunny.
Hi, mine is Percy, and he's scared. But Percy's my little baby, and he's not my dog. He's my son's dog. And he goes to bed with my son, but he wakes up in my room.
I'd like some to share. This is Charlie. She's gonna be a year old on Halloween. So,
I have to show you something. Watch. Pray.
This is Russ. He's about, what, 7 now?
No, it's under 8.
Yeah. He can be a little movie, but he gets so excited and jealous of everyone else and everything.
He's our watchdog. Yeah, boy, nobody comes anywhere near our house without us knowing about it.
Okay, anyone else want to make some quick introductions? Okay.
So let's move on to stuffed animals, everyone.
Okay, yes. Go ahead. Introduce.
Oh, hi everyone. Here is my stuffed wolf, Wolfie. He's a very special one because I got him from the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. when I was 6 years old. And so he was kind of shy at first, but that's okay. He's just a concerned wolf, and I can't use him love.
Okay. Stand out, let other people.
This is Sammy Rabbit. She died a while ago, and in 2000, August 7th, 2000. And she was sweet, she was mellow, she was lovable, she was fun, and I miss her. I love her a lot.
Anybody else want to?
Want to introduce your friends? Anyone else want to introduce their friends?
Hi, I have 2 animals here, pictured here. One is a beloved tortoiseshell kitty named Catnip, who had, when she was a stray, seemed to be perfectly normal, and then we discovered she had, unfortunately, kidney problems, and that's what took her on May 4th. And then 2 weeks ago, another kitty, as happens to, seems to, I think, a lot of us, another cat showed up, and her name is Sunday because she has splotches of caramel, hot fudge, and marshmallow. S-U-N-D-A-E, Sunday, and she is the exact opposite temperamentally from my beloved, very mellow, older cat. This one climbs trees up to 10 or 12 feet. We discovered that she is 6 months old instead of 4 months old, so my hopes of her calming down as a kitten into maturity have evaporated.
Anyone else?
This is Athena. I named her after the Greek goddess of owls and wisdom.
Okay. Anyone else want to introduce their friends? No? Okay, well, thank you all for bringing your friends, and thanks for coming up, and you can find a seat. And Obviously, this is our animal celebration service, but I want to welcome everyone who is here visiting at First UU Church. We're glad you're here and hope you find what you're seeking. We're a community of individuals holding many different beliefs, coming from many different places, but each progressing on our own journeys of life and faith. We join together in our commitment to care for humanity and all the animals of the world and to shape a better, healthier, more hopeful world. We especially welcome and stand with LGBTQ persons as we seek to welcome all persons and all critters too today. So our children's program is led by Rosalie, and if the kids get kind of antsy, she and Michaela will take care of them, but usually we hope kids will stay through the animal service, but they're welcome to go out, and Rosalie and Michaela can help decide about that. And let's continue with some music, and we'll turn to Caitlin for the prelude.
We gather this day to celebrate our animal companions, to thank them for all the ways that they bless and enrich our lives. We thank you, dogs and cats, who warm our laps, our feet, and our hearts, and who play games with us. We thank you, birds, whose songs and bright feathers fill our rooms with beauty. We thank you, rats, mice, and gerbils, for your curiosity and your curious behaviors. We thank you, snakes and skinks and lizards, turtles and toads, fish and frogs, ferrets, rabbits and goats, chickens, ducks, and sheep, for being our companion in this amazing world that we share. We thank you for blessing us with your companionship. Elle, come up and light the chalice. Please join me in the chalice lighting words. We light our chalice this day in appreciation for all of Earth's creatures. We thank them for making our lives richer and more exciting, and for blessing our days.
Spirit.
Please join us in our opening hymn, number 203, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky, and Stand As You Are Able. Please join me in openly affirming the key principles printed in your order of service. We covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of each person, justice, equity, compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement toward spiritual growth in our congregation. Free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and use of the democratic process within our congregation and society at large. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Respect for the interdependent web of existence. Rosalie will lead us, Jan will lead us in the story for all ages today. If you are a young person or if you're young at heart, please come. Should they come and join us up here?
Yeah. You're just going to sit right here.
She's got some panpipes here. Maybe she'll play them for us. I have a story of St. Francis of Assisi. Have you guys heard of him? Maybe you've seen statues of him in people's gardens. He's always standing with his one hand out, and there are always birds on his shoulders, sometimes birds on his hands. Okay, well, he lived a long time ago in 1182. That's a pretty long time ago in Italy. And his father was really wealthy, had a lot of money, and he had everything that he wanted. And he liked to have parties and wear his fancy clothes and all that stuff. And then he was old enough to fight in a war. And when he was fighting in the war, he was captured and they put him in prison. So he had some time to think about his life. And after he came out, he thought, oh, I'll just go back to my life that I had before, where I used to party all the time. But he got sick instead. Then he had a lot of time to think about his life and what it meant. And he said, saints do really important things, and they save people and do all kinds of stuff. So he got his armor, and he thought he was all cool and everything. But then one day he was out falling asleep on the ground, and he heard somebody talking to him, and he thought it was God. And it seemed that God told him that instead of serving a nobleman, he should serve all people, and he should serve the poor. So he went home and started thinking about what he wanted to do and how he could serve other people. A lot of people talk about him. He said he stopped by a church to pray and that a statue of Jesus spoke to him. We don't know exactly what happened, but he did make a life where he helped the poor people and the animals. That became his mission in life. And he was so gentle and sincere that other people decided to join him. And they started something that was called a monastery, where people men live who aren't married, and they serve God. He loved all of nature, and one time there was a story that he walked into a village where a wolf was bothering all the people. And he walked up to the wolf and he said, "Please don't bother these people." And the wolf put his paw in St. Francis' hand and was calm and didn't hurt the people anymore. Well, maybe that's not a true story, but it's an example of the kind of person he was. Then he preached to people always to remember to live in the light. He really believed in hell. We don't believe in hell. So we do believe that all people... Can you hear a wolf be quiet, please? Thank you. No, I know, well, wolfie needs to be quiet. So we don't believe in hell, but we do believe in helping others. There's a saying in Unitarian Universalism, you could say, that we believe in gentleness and compassion toward all living things. And that's what St. Francis stood for. That was important to him in his whole life. And the song we just sang was All Creatures of the Earth and Sky. That was all about what St. Francis stood for. He's a pretty cool guy, huh? Might have been a nice guy to talk to. All right, so now it's time for you to go back to your seats. Thank you.
And at this time in our service, we share milestones in our lives, and we do that by lighting candles of joy and concern. And today we're also going to add a time for sharing joys and concerns about our animal companions. And so let's start with people and then move to the animals or whatever. So come and share your joys and concerns. Unsinkable Molly Brown, whose pictures are in the slideshow, and she's been gone about 3 weeks now. And one for Dizzy, who's a little bit lonely, but gets to chase Charlie. And that keeps her busy. And one more for all those things that have gone unspoken, those pets we remember, or animal companions, and other animals in the world that are endangered, and for all the people that we are concerned about. Invite us into a time of silent thought, prayer, and meditation, and in a moment I'll ask you to join me in reading the prayer by Elder Schweitzer. That really includes animals and birds and probably some horses as we extend out. We also send our good thoughts to the people who are still recovering from recent hurricanes and earthquakes in Houston and Florida and in Puerto Rico and also in Mexico. And we offer up our appreciation for the ways that we can come together, all of us, two-footed, four-footed, finned, winged, all of us who need the community that we share together. We give thanks for this community and for this day. Amen. I invite you to join me now in reading the prayer by Albert Schweitzer. Hear our humble prayer, O God, for our friends the animals, especially for animals who are suffering, for any that are hunted or lost, or deserted or frightened or hungry, for all that must be put to death. We entreat for them all thy mercy and pity, and for those who deal with them we ask a heart of compassion and gentle hands and kindly words. Make us ourselves to be true friends to animals, and so to share the blessings of the merciful. Amen. Join me now in singing Spirit of Life. Please remain seated. There's a book called The Souls of Animals, written by one of my colleagues, Gary Kowalski, who is a big, interesting fellow. I think he's perhaps temporarily out of the ministry, but he's a very big man with a very tender heart. And he wrote this book, The Souls of Animals, and this reading is from one of the last parts of it. Can we open our hearts to the animals? Can we greet them as our soulmates, beings like ourselves who possess dignity and depth? To do so, we must learn to revere and respect the creatures who, like us, are part of God's beloved creation, and to cherish the amazing planet that sustains our mutual existence. We must join in a biospirituality that will acknowledge and celebrate the sacred in all life. No longer can we discount the lives of sensitive and intelligent creatures merely because they assume non-human form. The things that make life most precious and blessed, courage and daring, conscience and compassion, imagination and originality, fantasy and play, do not belong to our kind alone. Animals like us are living souls. They are not things, they are not objects, neither are they human. Yet they mourn, they love, they dance, they suffer. They know the peaks and chasms of being. Animals are expressions of the mind at large that suffuses our universe. With us, they share in the gifts of consciousness and life. In a wonderful and inexpressible way, therefore, God is present in all creatures. this time, we'd like to take a few moments to think about endangered animals. And if anyone would like to share briefly about endangered animals, this would be a time to do that.
I don't know if they're endangered or simply of concern, but we can drive just a short distance in the valley here and see the agriculture, and so my concern is for the bees, and I hope that that the whole pesticide issue is we come to our senses and realize that that it's a big problem, and that most of the food that we eat depends on the bees.
Other animals you're concerned about?
I've long had a concern for the elephants. They're still killed by the hundreds, indeed thousands, in every year for their tusks, which don't do what people think they're going to do for them anyway when they're ground up. But these animals are just slaughtered, and they are intelligent beings that should not disappear from the earth. I'll just briefly say I watched a film with an elephant in front of a large mirror that had been put in the jungle. And he looked at it, and he was troubled by it, and he was curious, and he walked around to the back of it. And he obviously was very interested. Walked back to the front of it, swayed back and forth, lifted his trunk and touched the mirror. So he was obviously aware that that was him in the mirror. We can't destroy them.
Recently, I've been thrilled with a National Geographic showing of the photography of endangered species, 5,000 of them, I believe. And they're all, this photographer takes these most amazing photographs of endangered species, and he's been all over the world. And I've taped it and I've watched it several times, so if anybody wants to join me, it's amazing.
So I know we don't really think of them as animals like coral reefs. If we look at the complexity of the way that they structure their colonies, it's quite amazing how intelligent they are. And we know that they're being destroyed by a number of issues, and if we can be concerned about that, we can save multiple sea creatures and species and mammals.
I've been hearing on the radio about the loss of vegetation in Puerto Rico, but that with it go all the wild creatures that depend on it. And so that they are not necessarily endangered in the sense of a species being endangered, but just as individuals, probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of creatures are endangered. And then there are the pets that are also endangered by the hurricanes and all the worldwide problems that we've been having lately.
Thank you. Obviously, there are so many things that could be said about endangered animals, and so many animals that are threatened these days. I thank you for sharing your thoughts about these animals. I invite us now to take a moment to share our gifts and offerings to support this congregation. While the choir shares more music. Thank you for sharing your gifts and offerings this day, for coming with your animals, stuffed or very lively, for being here to share the life that we all are part of in this interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. For these blessings, for these gifts, we give thanks. It's short, really. We gather again today to celebrate the animals, those within our households and those everywhere around the world. We do not presume to bless them, for it is they who bless us in so very many ways. Some humans feel they are separate and above the animals, but each year there is more evidence of how smart and wise the animals may be. I won't comment on how often people evidence a shortage of intelligence and wisdom. We are kin to the animals, sharing some 98% or more of our DNA with chimpanzees. It is said we also share a good third of our DNA with daffodils. We may currently run this planet, but the cockroaches have been here far longer than humans and will likely be here long after we are gone. The tradition of blessing the animals goes back at least to St. Francis, but native peoples around the world lived in harmony with the animals and chose various animals to name their clans, calling down blessings upon them. Cows are sacred in India, and other animals are sacred in other places. Mosquitoes, ants, spiders, and cockroaches may not be appreciated by many, but they are part of the food chain for other animals. Some animals are so attuned to certain foods that even the spraying of mosquitoes and the spraying of pesticides can cause serious disruptions in the food chain. For several years, there has been more concern about the death of bees, and it is becoming more apparent that some widely used pesticides loss of habitat for human housing, business, and agriculture. The burning of South American rainforests to create grazing lands to raise cattle for McDonald's and other corporations has long been a concern. But the loss of habitat and the loss of trees which produce oxygen and stabilize the land is the biggest concern, but the loss of habitat for plants and animals may be causing harms that we don't even yet imagine. Increasing human populations and increasing use and abuse of natural resources by humans have thrown the whole Earth community out of balance. We talk about this around Earth Day each year, but we need to remember each day that what we eat, what we drive, where we go, what we do, all have an impact on the animals and the environment. Our use of lights and heaters and air conditioners and computers and all our tech stuff has an impact, unless they are wind or solar powered, that contributes to the heating of the planet by burning fossil fuels and releasing greenhouse gases. The Paris Accords were intended to slow the warming of the planet and eventually decrease the amount of greenhouse gases being released around the world. But even greater changes in human patterns are needed. Several countries now rely on wind and solar power for most of their energy needs, but it will likely be decades before there are really significant changes around the globe or even in the United States. There are hopeful signs as more nations and states push for electric cars, windmills, and solar installations. Some of these changes may come too slowly to help certain of the animals, and even people have a hard time getting out of the way of bigger hurricanes, typhoons, and earthquakes. For far too long, agricultural needs, human housing, and business generally has determined the fate of too many of the animals. In the West, ranchers were allowed to kill off so many of the bear and wolves that had kept populations of deer in check, but their elimination threw the whole ecosystem out of balance. The restoration of wolves in Yellowstone National Park has dramatically changed the ecosystem and made the deer and elk populations healthier and hardier. Ranchers, of course, are not happy when bear and wolves and bison cross park boundary lines, so some species have lost endangered animal protections and are again being hunted. Eagles and other large birds rebounded after DDT was banned as a pesticide, but have been increasingly falling victim to lead pellets and shotgun shells. The first official act of Trump's Interior Secretary, Ryan Zink, back in early March was to overturn the ban on lead shot, but the law passed in California may still take effect in stages. There's no good reason to keep using lead shot or lead fishing weights, which leave known toxins in the environment, but the gun lobby has continued to oppose any limitation. In Africa and Asia, killing of elephants and rhinoceroses for their tusks and horns have endangered those species. Lion and tiger populations are threatened in many areas. Some of these majestic animals may soon exist only in zoos or go completely extinct. Many of the apes, monkeys, and orangutans are also endangered, mostly due to encroachment of human populations. Animals around the world are endangered today because of human development and changes to the environment. Many species of plants and animals go extinct each year, and even some of the most beloved animals will likely fall. The changes we make to our lifestyle, both big and small, can help to make a difference. But the challenge is great and the time is short. We really don't know if there is a point of no return with the pollution of the earth. We hope that the earth will always be able to recover, but that recovery might not include humans. Even if we are not able to stop storm intensification, changing patterns of rain and drought, and rising seas, our efforts will hopefully help keep things from getting even worse. Now I want to talk about the animals that are our closest companions for a few moments, the ones that really become part of the family. For some that includes horses and pigs, various small rodents, birds, lizards, and snakes, but I particularly think of cats and dogs that sit on our laps or next to us or at our feet. They're the cats that wrap themselves around us and try to sleep next to us or on our heads. They're the dogs that take up most of the space on the bed or lie snoring on the floor next to the bed. There are dogs that walk and run with us and sometimes go to work with us. There are cats that expect us, their staff, to meet their every desire, but deign to visit us only on their own schedule, which may or may not include any awareness of our sleep patterns. Household animal companions can become our closest friends and confidants. They may hear the things we need to say but can't say to other people. Our dogs and cats may receive the love that we don't dare to offer to others. And the dogs especially are always there to share their love with us. Sadly, dogs and cats do not live as long as we do. Some of us gray hairs have had many dog and cat companions, some who came into our lives as little balls of fur that developed their own unique personalities, lived out their lives with us, and passed on to whatever may be beyond this life. It was just 3 weeks ago that one of my doggy companions breathed her last, lying peacefully next to me on my couch. The unsinkable Molly Brown was born in Florida in spring of 2003, sired by Dudley, companion of my ex-wife's parents, and living with us first in Southern California, where she had corrective surgery by a canine cardiologist and came home running in a blue tape bandage when she was supposed to be resting. She finally slowed down in her 13th and 14th years. Molly wasn't the brightest dog I have ever had, but she probably was the most enthusiastic. often from the moment she woke me up to the last out of the night. She had a personality much bigger than her 13 pounds of Maltese breeding would suggest, and that was clear from the day we got the little ball of fluff to the morning she insisted on her walk the day she died. My other dog, Dizzy, and I still miss Molly. Maybe next year I will tell you the story of Dizzy, the Arkansas brown dog. Dizzy, by the way, is short for disaster. But she has been a really good companion for 11 years now. And they both are in the pictures we're showing today. Anyway, those dogs and cats that live with us are certainly part of the family. Four-legged children or siblings who will play with us, sit with us, and keep our secrets as we all journey through life. We are thankful for their companionship, and we do our best to keep them well-fed, healthy, and safe. Today we show our appreciation, and we offer them our blessings, but mostly we celebrate how much they bless us. Woof and meow. I invite you now to turn to the closing hymn, number 175. Please stand as you are able. I invite you to join pause. May this congregation of various animals always be dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there's a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity. May the stars carry your sadness away. May the flowers and the dogs and cats and animals fill your heart with beauty. May hope forever wipe away your tears, and above all, may love make you strong. So now in peace. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Woof. Namaste. Now. Amen.